Hey gang, Kevin here. I was gonna do this podcast today just to talk to you guys about just how your jump into January is going. Mine's going great, as you can tell. We've put out more footage, more. We've done more creative, creations, which is the videos, and more content. So mine's going well. Comment below. Let us know how yours is doing. The other thing I want to talk about was thanks to Mr. Joey on the Olean Politics Access. He shared something this morning. It was kind of in line with my rant video on Monday, I believe, about the boy's birth certificate, or the girl who is turning to a boy's birth certificate change. And I try not to target like one topic over and over again, but it happened to be there, right? So like if something comes across my desk. You know what I mean? I want to give my opinion on it and create content based on it. So the article this morning that I caught was people were being outraged by a transgender doll. It looks like a little girl in a dress, and then she's got male genitalia on the doll. And I understand the point of it, but let's be real. So these are my thoughts on it. My thoughts are that you can train kids to expect whatever, right? Like, and then there's a couple comments in there about, well, Barbie, there's a pregnant Barbie doll, right? Well, like, yeah, they open the tummy up. Like, they don't open up the vagina and pull the babies out, right? They open up the tummy, the belly, and there's babies inside. And like that, I mean, that's... You can touch on different topics, but I don't think touching on like sexual orientation and things like that with little children that are playing with dolls or action figures or what have you should be like something you broach until they hit like that's and nobody seems to get that. Like, sexual orientation is like how you're oriented sexually. Well, should be nothing sexual about a child pre-puberty, right? Like, and obviously as they go through puberty, like, they're going to experience sexual orientation, sexual desires, things like that. And, like, where it's not legal for them to have sex, they still are going to be experiencing kissing boys, kissing girls, you know what I mean? Like, wearing somebody's Letterman, you know what I mean? Going steady. Like, that shit happens when they are about the age of puberty and up until the age of 18. They're trying to figure stuff out. And then once they're legal at the age of 17 in New York, anyways, once they're of legal age of consent, that's when they go and they can just start figuring it out. Maybe they like to be, I'm sure certain members on that group that I'm quoting where this article came from like to be, chained to a radiator, right, or beaten with leather. I'm sure we all know who I'm talking about. Anyways, like, you figure that stuff out later. Like, you don't explain to kids that there's like, gimps and stuff with the portrayal of a doll or an action figure, right? Like, that's not appropriate. Like, you have to explain to children where babies come from, right? Like, oh, the stork, right? Like, you don't have to sit there and be like, well, dad impregnates the mother with semen, or it could be artificially inseminated, or in this case, the transgender woman who happens to have functioning male genitalia impregnates his wife, you know what I mean? Or impregnates her husband, who's a, transgender female, or, who's the husband and just has working female parts like that. Like, you don't have to get that complicated with kids. Like, you just have to say, hey, no, babies grow inside this thing called the womb. It's near the stomach. Like, that's it. Like, the Barbie doll that has that. But if you ever notice, no Barbie doll, no Ken doll has any genitalia. Like, well, Ken doesn't have a penis. He also doesn't have a vagina. Barbie doesn't have a penis, and she doesn't have a vagina. Like, you don't need to add a penis to a Barbie doll to prove transgender. You could just sell a Ken doll where he's wearing a dress. You know what I mean? And, like... But there's no reason that kids should be picking their gender at that early of an age. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Because it all has to do with their sexual orientation. Right? Like, otherwise, yeah, it's bananas. Because you changing your parts is because of a sexual orientation. If you want to be closer to, if you like wearing lipstick, that doesn't make you a woman. That just means that you like wearing lipstick, right? Like, that's if you're a man, you know what I mean? That doesn't mean that you're more like a woman. And to explain that to a 9-year-old, like, you don't have to sit there and be like, oh no, you have to change to be a woman every aspect. We have to give you, cut all your boy parts out and put new girl parts in. Like, no, you let them decide that after the age of 18. You shouldn't be promoting children to just start exploring their sexuality at age 6. It's not appropriate, because they're not going to be having sex for 12 years. So, like, why would they be trying to figure out who they're going to have sex with in 12 years if that's something, you know what I mean? They should be enjoying playing Tea Party with their dolls, or, going, reenacting the Civil War with their army men, or what have you, or some combination of both, right? Like, that's what little kids should be doing. They should be exploring their imagination and not their sexual preferences. And that's where I think this doll is probably just to push the envelope. Like, I'm not offended by the doll, I just think it's in bad taste. And I'm one to talk, right? Like, a lot of what I do is in bad taste. But, I mean, there's certain fundamentals, and I like to watch a lot of Jordan Peterson, stuff like that, early child developmental stuff, and he always talks about it's for the betterment of the children to raise them as adults and then let them figure it out, and to teach them valuable lessons in life. And a lot of my videos in the past had been about, like, calling out and attacking people but all those people were adults. You'll never see me attack a child, right? Like, I'll attack the parents who raised a child or are raising a child that is, they're doing it in a piss poor manner. But I mean, it's just like they need to be raised right. And I'm not saying raised right like they like, listen, you can raise them in a culturally savvy, politically correct household, and then later on they decide to change their gender. That doesn't make it not right. That just you don't want to force feed them at age 6, right? Like, maybe a child's being raised by 2 men, and my dads are gay, maybe I should be gay, right? That's like, yeah, maybe, but maybe because you were adopted or a child from a previous encounter, maybe you still have sexual desires towards women, and there's nothing wrong with being different than your parents. You know what I mean? But, like, you don't need to have a conversation with a kid at 6 about that. You have a conversation with them when they're trying to figure crap out and not trying to lead them one way or another. Like, that's what I liked about my parents, about, like, with religion. Like, the family's all Catholic. Well, that's fine. But, like, nobody indoctrinated me and said that I had to be Catholic in order to be part of the family. Like, because it was my choice. And that's, and that's what it is. Like, you don't try to, and those parents that just ingrain, like, this is how I am and this is how you will be. And whether they're, like, and it's starting to come the other direction too, right? So you've got the parents that are straight and, like, we're straight and you can't be straight, and we're like, that's like, there's a lot of sitcoms and a lot of television shows and drama shows in the 90s that talked about that, like, my father disowned me because I was gay. Well, you know what, your dad was an asshole and you shouldn't have been disowned. But at the same time, now we're going in the other direction where we've got parents that are gay and they're raising their kids and are like, no, we're gay and you have to be gay and blah blah blah. And instead of, like, letting them make a choice to be straight, like, it's like we're picking sides. It's almost our society is almost as polarizing as the political spectrum, right? Like, you're either gay or straight. You can't be both, and you can't. And if you're opposite of what your parents are, you won't be loved by them. But if you were the same as your parents are, you're going to be hated by the other group. Like, no, there shouldn't be any of that. But at the same time, like, you know what I mean? Like, you can have dreams for your children. Just, understand that it's their choice. But I don't think that you should be broaching And so I'm getting off on a wild tangent. But we shouldn't be trying to instill this in our children at at age 6, or younger. I mean, anything under 13. You know what I mean? Like, they're gonna ask questions at 11 and stuff, and you approach it, but you don't have to. I don't know. Well, that was my spiel for the day. Comment below. Let me know how your jump into January is going. And you'll probably see me tonight because good old Uncle Paulie's coming, and we're going to do our news over beers. So, and then hopefully we get that done tonight. So, thanks.